Okay guys, today we're going to be talking about how to study, and it's a pretty simple 5-step process. Step 1 is to stop lying, Step 2 is to understand what's going on in your mind, Step 3 is to negotiate, Step 4 is to start training, and Step 5 is no TikTok or similar poisons. Okay, and let's just get right into it. So stop lying. Okay, what does that mean? And and the truth is, if you are a experienced student or you've been a student for a while, you probably know what I mean when I say stop lying. Okay? That means when you say that you're studying for 4 hours, but you really studied for 10 minutes and then watched YouTube for 4 hours, that's lying. Okay? You're lying to yourself, you're lying to the people around you. You have to stop. Okay? And I know that every single student has done that, so you might as well stop lying to yourself. And I've certainly done that before, where, I've even thought in my mind, wow, I was studying for 4 hours today, didn't get much done. And I thought, well, now wait a minute, I wasn't studying for 4 hours. I was studying for like 10 minutes. Okay? So, step 1 is to stop lying. Stop lying to yourself. Okay? Because I mean, you know what studying is. Okay? And it's not, reading the assignment requirements and being like, okay, I guess I'm gonna watch a YouTube video, and then 4 hours goes by. Okay, I guess it's time to go home. You know. So, step 1 is to stop lying, and step 2 is to understand what's going on in your mind. So, so basically, what you have is you have two different people. Okay, one is the short-term version of you. One is the long-term version of you. Okay, and maybe the short-term version of you wants to watch YouTube or play games, or maybe they want to clean your house when it's not time to, when you should be doing school, or maybe they want to watch TikTok, or or maybe it wants to look at Instagram or Facebook or whatever kind of thing that it wants to do other than what the right thing is. Okay? And you typically know what the right thing is because you feel guilty when you're not doing it. Okay? So you have to understand what's going on in your mind. Okay? And you have these two different personalities. Okay? And it's not some kind of disorder or whatever. Okay? And anybody who has ever procrastinated can understand there's one version of you that knows that you need to do it. And there's another version who is just going to hurry and watch this YouTube video first, and then we're going to get started. Okay? And then 4 hours goes by, and you never get started. Okay? So you have to realize that the short-term version of you is like a child who doesn't want to do what he needs to do. Okay? And it's not a version of you to be hated or to feel negatively towards. It's a version of you that you have to help, and you have to support, and you have to help it figure out that you do need to do the right thing. Okay, whether that be study or work or whatever you got going on, that you can make things positive and be doing the right thing. Okay, so basically, to understand what's going on in your mind, there's two personalities. Okay, there's two personalities, short term and long term. Okay, so what happens is the short term guy is in control, and then he or she will make you waste this study time, okay? Or he or she will make you waste the study time for today, but then we're for sure going to get a jump start on it tomorrow, you know? Or, we're just going to watch this YouTube video. We're just going to look at Instagram for 5 minutes. Okay, we're going to be on TikTok for just 5 minutes. And then suddenly the day's over. Out of nowhere the day's over. So, you have to realize you have to be able to control short-term you. Otherwise, short-term you is going to make long-term you upset. And the person that you need to look at serving and helping and pleasing is long-term you. Okay? Because long-term you realizes, okay, I got to get my degree. I got to get my license. I gotta pass my exams. Okay, if you're doing CPA or whatever, whether it's CPA or any field, you know, I gotta I gotta pass my stuff. I gotta get this stuff done. It's gonna be so good because then I'm gonna have this benefit. I'm gonna be able to help the people around me more. I'm gonna be able to do all these things. Okay, that's long-term you. And short-term you says, let's do all that, but after we watch TikTok for 10 minutes. Okay? And then you watch TikTok for 10 minutes and suddenly it's dark outside and it's 3 in the morning. You know? So you have to be able to understand that there are two different versions at play here. Okay? Now let's go to negotiating. Who are we negotiating with? Okay, we're negotiating with ourselves. Short term and long term. Okay? And this is kind of like, and I had to do this too. Okay, I had to do this too. So you have to look at it and say, you know what? Short-term us is very prevalent and very, very insistent. Okay? Okay, you could look at short-term you kind of like a child stamping their feet. I want this and I want that. Okay, but you have to work with it. You can't just hate it. You can't just ignore it. Otherwise, it will take over. Okay, so you have to say, you know what? We're going to do, for example, the negotiation could be, we're going to do an hour of hardcore long-term stuff, okay, whether it be studying or working or whatever it is. Okay, we're going to push as hard as we can for 1 hour, and then we're going to do short-term stuff for 10 minutes. Okay, or maybe we're going to do short-term stuff for 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever it is. Okay, whatever has to happen in order to get going. Okay, because a lot of times after you get going, and then you can make it. Okay, after you get going, you have some momentum. And after you get going, it's a lot easier to continue. Okay? But you have to start. Okay? And sometimes that takes negotiation. And nobody can tell but yourself how strong the short-term version of you is. But you have to be honest with yourself. Okay? So you can't be like, oh wow, I've got pretty good control. I'm pretty special. I don't have this issue. Wow, I'm pretty cool. Okay? But it doesn't matter what you tell other people about that. You know exactly how much time you waste. Okay? You know exactly what happens when you have a task in front of you. Okay? Do you hurry and read a book for 10 minutes? Okay? Or do you chat on the phone with somebody? Or what are you doing? Okay? You know exactly what happens when it's time for you to buckle down and get stuff done. Okay? And maybe you are somebody who doesn't have these issues. Or maybe you are somebody who doesn't have these issues as bad as maybe someone else. But you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. Okay? So, I would say to negotiate with the short-term version and the long-term version of yourself. You can't just ignore this. Okay, some people would say, oh, well, I'm going to just say no short-term stuff till the long-term stuff is done. Okay, because that's what should happen, right? And yeah, that's probably true. But a lot of times if you do that, what happens? Okay, you say, I'm gonna do all these different things. I'm gonna do all these different things. I'm gonna get all this work done today. So since I'm gonna do that, then I'm gonna watch a YouTube video for 10 minutes. Right? Like, you have to realize that both of these people are there and they have to be worked with or you're gonna fail. Okay? And I hear stories about, oh, so-and-so's been studying so-and-so's been studying this long for this exam. Okay, or they've been working on their degree for this much time. And I know they're not studying. Okay, they're not working on their degree. They haven't figured this out. Okay, they haven't figured out what's going on in their mind. They haven't started negotiating. Okay, they have short-term. Short-term's taken all this time, all this control, and long-term's got nothing. Okay? And it's no secret. If someone's taking too long to get something done, maybe it's the CPA exams, maybe it's their degree, there's a problem. Okay? That doesn't just happen. So you have to start negotiating. Okay, and that goes right into step 4. Start training. Okay, what are you training? Okay, you're training yourself. So what does this mean? So for example, if you're going to the gym, maybe day 1 you're not going to pick up the 100-pound weight. Okay, maybe day 1 you have to pick up the 30-pound or the 15-pound. Or maybe you have to pick up the 5-pound. Okay, maybe that's where you're at. And you either know or can find out very quickly where you're at. Okay, and what does that mean? So you have the short-term and the long-term version of yourself. Okay? And maybe you figure out that you have to study for 30 minutes and then have short-term activities, maybe it's playing a game or doing this or that, for 15 minutes. Okay, so 30 over here, 15 over here. Or maybe you have to find out that you have to do 30 over here and 20 over here. Okay? Or maybe you find out that you have to do 15 over here and 30 over here. Okay? But you're somewhere. You have to start somewhere. Okay? And maybe you're starting somewhere where, you know, you can do an hour over here or 30 minutes over here. Okay? And it's not shameful to be honest with yourself. Okay? Because if you try to pick up the 100-pound weight at the gym when you're not ready, it's not going to work. Okay? So, I would say, look at the long-term stuff. Well, I would say start training. Okay? Figure out where you're at. Can I study for 1 hour in a row? And then do 15 minutes of short-term activities? Okay, and that could be anything. Okay, it could be chatting with your sister, chatting with your brother. It could be anything. Anything that brings you short-term happiness. Okay, short-term fulfillment. You know. But kind of takes time from your long-term commitments. Okay, long-term commitments could be work, could be school, could be a CPA license, could be whatever it is. Okay, you have to start training, and you have to be honest. You have to be honest with yourself. Where am I at? Okay, and what can I do today to get better? Okay, and that's going to mean that sometimes you have to admit to yourself some pretty embarrassing things. Okay, and maybe you have to admit to yourself, wow, I'm not really that good at studying. You know, I can only study for 30 minutes, and then, or you know, maybe you say, I can only study for 15 minutes, then I gotta play for 30 minutes. You know, I gotta do some short-term activities for 30 minutes. Okay, but let's do the math on that. Let's say you have a 4-hour window, and you study for 15 minutes, and then you mess around for 30. Okay, you've spent 45 minutes, and you've got 15 minutes of activity. Okay, then let's extend this out. I should have done something that... Let's see here. Okay, so we're going to say study, and then we're going to say play. Okay, so you have these 4 different sections of 45 minutes, and then you'll have one more. Okay, and then let's say this is your whole study session. Okay, you had to study for 15 and mess around for 30. Okay, because you're just barely starting your training. You know, you're just barely admitting to yourself that there's a problem. Okay, and you're admitting to yourself that you have to negotiate, and you're admitting to yourself that there's a short-term version of you that likes to screw up the long-term version of you. Okay, and actually that's the wrong way to say it. Okay, the short-term version of you just lacks understanding. Okay, but anyways, let's look back at this study session where we studied for 15 minutes and then we played for 30. So if we do it this way, we ended up getting an hour and 15 minutes of good study time. Okay, An hour a good, an hour and 15 a good study time out of approximately, um, let's just check. Let's just check. Out of 225 minutes. Okay. Okay, we had 3.75 hours. We got an hour 15 a good study time. Okay, and if any student is being honest, that is not the worst they've ever done. Okay. If any student is being honest, then the worst they've ever done is maybe about 5 or 10 minutes of study time, or maybe 0 study time in a 3.75 hour window. So this is better. This is better than the worst. Okay? And it's not that you stay here. You know, it's not that you stay on the 15 minutes of study and the 30 minutes of playtime, or free time, or short-term time, or whatever you're going to call it. Okay, it's not that you have to stay there. Okay, but you have to start somewhere. And then you realize, if you can even do some negotiation, then you can progress. Okay, because this is an hour 15 of good, solid study time. And there's a lot of people who can't get an hour 15 of good study time in a 3.75 hour window. And maybe you're one of them. And if you are one of those people, then don't feel ashamed of yourself. Just realize that I can do better and I can improve. Okay, and I can start training. And then maybe next week I can do 30 and 30, okay, instead of 15 and 30. And maybe the week after I can do 45 and 30, and then 60 and 30, you know, and then 90 and 30, or 90 and 15, okay? But you have to work with yourself and realize where you're at, okay? And, so, as you start training, and then let's see. So yeah, I would say start training. Train yourself to be able to study for more hours against the time that you do short-term activities. And that is step 4. Now step 5 is no TikTok or similar poisons. Now what do I mean about poisons? TikTok is a poison to your mind the same way that drugs or alcohol are a poison to your mind and body. Why is that? Studies have been done so public, okay, so public, these can be found so easily, that TikTok activates the same part of your brain as hard drugs, okay, and what TikTok does is it trains your mind to need something new every 10 seconds. Maybe it's 30, maybe it's a minute, whatever it is. You're training your attention span to be lower. You cannot be a winner and use TikTok consistently, okay, because you're training your mind to need something new every 10, 30 minute, okay? Like, this can't happen. So when you're doing your playtime or your short-term time, you can't do that, okay? Preferably, you're doing an activity, not sitting there watching something, okay? But if you have to be sitting there watching a YouTube video, maybe watching part of a show or something, that's better than watching TikTok. And what do I mean by similar poisons? I know that, like, sometimes you find that same content on Instagram, maybe iFunny, if that's still a thing. But you know what I mean. If you've used TikTok, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? You can't poison your mind like that and still be a winner. You just can't. So, while you're training yourself and while you're studying, then no TikTok or similar poisons. And that's really going to be a part 1 for how to study. Once you get that down, you're really most of the way there, because I mean, everyone talks about all these different strategies. Maybe you take notes this way, or you take notes that way, or maybe you do this or that, but none of that matters if you're wasting all your time. Right? So, For this video, that's probably good enough. We have stop lying and understand what's going on in your mind and negotiate and start training and no TikTok or similar poisons. Alright, see you guys.